Alright, this is the second time I'm having to shoot this because the first time I found my TV lady makeup bag and was like, nah, I'll just do something different. So I put on maybe half of it. And then when I rewatched the video, I was like, ugh. When you haven't worn makeup in a while and then you see yourself with it, like I was one sidestep to a back alley hooker. In TV, when you work in TV, you have to cake it on, just clown face the war paint because the lights are so bright. And I just haven't seen myself with makeup on in a while, and I hope not to see myself with it on again for quite even longer. Woo. Speaking of back alley hooker, that is a perfect transition into the first question I have for the 5-month Vanniversary. Okay, and before I go any further, I actually made the bed today and cleaned the van, and I always clean the van, but this never happens. And the only reason that this is all so pristine is because finally, after 5 months, I was able to stay in one spot for a bit because my BFF, her childhood home, is where I am now. So I have a driveway, which means I have a plug, which means I have air conditioner and a washer and dryer that doesn't have the stranger's hair coiled around the oscillator and smell like a sock. Oh, it's been amazing. I think because I've been running and gunning, I've not thought about maybe some of the things that I miss from living in a house. But I'll tell you what, being back in 4 walls and a roof and utilities has been pretty amazing. And it is the perfect break before I jet up to, I guess what's going to be my northmost point and then turn around. And part of the reason that I'm in that spot now is even though I'm in the Northeast, it's hot and humid, and being in this van in the summer is unbearable. I know I've talked about how much I regret not getting a second fan, but I don't feel comfortable putting in a second fan until I get home. So just the second I cook anything in here, it's just, you just sweat, even though it's not that humid. So I'm trying to get as north as possible to get out of the humidity. And then I've got to start making my way back because, as you know, I live in North Carolina and we are at the front door of hurricane season. And for 10 years, I stood out on beaches during hurricane season and referenced weather over my shoulder and talked in a voice not found in nature and told people do not do exactly what I'm doing, which is come down to the beach during a hurricane and we use our fancy reporter hands. So now I get to be a spectator for all the reporters out there, all my little baby reporters. I'm not going to miss that. Anyway, back to being a side alley hooker, or looking like one. I got a very sweet message from a woman who said that she was surprised that I had not addressed in my videos the risks to women, solo female travelers, out on the road, about getting caught up in human trafficking. Here's the reason that I have not talked about that yet, is because I don't believe there is one. Now, I'm speaking strictly from my experience of having produced, shot, wrote, voiced, presented a documentary on prostitution, and part of that was human trafficking. That is the only documentary of mine that's not up on my YouTube channel because it's also the only one of mine that I received death threats on. Because as it turns out, men who are in religious life or who are very high up in corporations or who are very high up in the legal system don't like it when you put them on TV with their ding-dong showing for the whole world to see because they were buying a prostitute. Anyway, so that's not on there. But what I will say is that the general public's understanding of human trafficking is largely forged by watching too many Lifetime movies and believing the bullshittery that mainstream media throws out at them. That it's Rachel, the high school cheerleader, and she gets ripped off the football field and chained to the center console and dragged all around the U.S. And then they find her and the police kick down the door and Rachel runs out, just so happy to be saved. And that's not real. I have no comment on how this goes down in other countries, but in the U.S., human trafficking, streetwalkers, Backpage girls, Craigslist girls, high-end escorts. That's all part of a very complicated system, and none of those categories are mutually exclusive. And all of them are under the umbrella, typically, of drugs. It's really complicated. I do not have time to explain it here, but what I will say is that if you do not want to have any risk of being dragged into human trafficking, ladies, don't buy drugs on the road, okay? Traffickers, criminals, they tend to look for vulnerable, weak, and easy targets. And while you are vulnerable by yourself, a woman who has lots of resources, who people know are traveling, who has a cell phone, who's not addicted to drugs, and who knows her way around any part of America and can figure out where the police station is, who also will go to police because she trusts them, they're not going to go for that kind of woman, okay? I'll send you the documentary if you want to watch the rest of this topic, but I wouldn't worry about it. I'm not worried about it. I have a gun. Okay, per the cooking video, which somehow really devolved quickly into a conversation about dating. I don't know what happened there. It's somewhere on here. Anyway, the feedback I got on that was there was some, most people loved it, right? But there was some people who said, well, we really want to see you cook because we want to know how to do it in such a small space. There is no witchcraft that goes on in here. It is, if you want to know what it's like to cook in a van, just go in your kitchen and find the sink. You're familiar. And then that small piece of countertop to the left, typically, in most kitchen designs, only cook, prep, clean, everything else on that and the sink for 2 weeks. You're not allowed to use any other part of the kitchen. Don't touch it, okay? That's what you get. That's it. And just keep using that. And when you curse the sky in frustration, and when you wonder why the hell you don't have more, when you miss your center island, then you'll know that you have experienced something close to van life. I don't know where I got this pencil from, but I like that I can use it to make my point. Okay? There's no magic. It's a huge loss of space. It's no ventilation. And that's why, these channels that pontificate about their Instapots and all these kitchen gadgets. Instapots you have to release the pressure on. And I'm pretty sure if I took an Instapot out into a Walmart parking lot and held on to my rocket and let the steam cap go, someone would become alarmed. All right. When it gets really hot in here, as it is now, I try my best to find a public park and then position the van against the last spot in the parking lot so I'm up against trees or bushes, and take the propane stove and put it outside just to keep heat from getting in here. I mean, it's for all the great things of van life, cooking in here sucks. It sucks. Oh, I forgot what I was supposed to do right in the beginning. I'm trying to embrace my van brethren, and I forgot to put on my thinking bra because, they all have bikinis, and I don't really like bikinis because they fall off in the ocean. So, okay. Thinking bra on, tits up, we are ready for van life. Okay. Okay, I already feel like I am more capable of shooting this Vanniversary now that the girls are supported. Damage report. There were 2 legitimate incidences in this month. Number 1, as you go northeast, because of salt, the plowing, lack of funds to pave said roads, I don't know. The potholes here are so bad. You saw some of them in the Detroit video, right? I could not help but hit these potholes, and the marine batteries in the back, they crashed through the plywood platform that they were on. Now, I did not engineer that platform really, really well, and that's only because I had no idea that marine batteries were so heavy. And so you had all this weight, and the van is just bouncing up and down, and they went right through. And so at that point they're sitting over the wheelbase, right? And I thought, well, that'll be okay. As long as they just sit there and they don't move from that point. And then with every pothole, it was just getting worse, to the point that the batteries were hanging, and then like all the wires and like the whole setup was just tight with tension. I mean, it was not good. If that goes, I have no power in here. Well, I have very minimal power. And I guess I could use the generator. I've used the generator maybe twice. It's just obnoxious. I don't like it. Would anyone like to buy it? Somebody finally bought that stupid Wi-Fi repeater. Would anyone like a generator? It's one of those Honda fancy schmancy inverter ones. Anyway, thankfully, because I was coming up here to my friend's house, we were able to get that back on, put a cleat in, and secure it. But you know, if your batteries are kind of last in your construction line, please know that they need a really stable setup, because they are heavy as all get out. The second damage report is when I hopped out of bed in the middle of the night to tinkle in Lake Shitter. I knocked over a gallon of water and the cap was not on correct, and it spilled all over the floor, and I was freaking out because underneath here is plywood. Plywood really can't get wet. So another huge vote of confidence for these foam tiles, because I was able to just pop them right up and dry off the plywood and make sure that there was no moisture sitting under there. And then I let the foam tiles stay off the floor for a couple days so that it was completely dry. So if you have vinyl or linoleum or any kind of just in place flooring and water or moisture gets under that, I mean, that is the hell of every subfloor problem. So I can't say enough good things about these foam tiles. They can be replaced quickly. They do not absorb water, so all the water was right on the surface for me to dry up. They hadn't soaked it up, and problem solved. But not fun, not really a fun housekeeping project at 3 o'clock in the morning, but it happened. I mean, and stuff like that. And there's little stuff that still cracks, but nothing major. The big concern was those batteries. And thank God, it's almost when you're planning your trip, if you have certain points where you have friends that have power tools and are handy, if you just stop in and just fix stuff that looks like it's starting to get wonky, because this myth of working on the van on the road, like what are you gonna do? Pull into a Lowe's and buy a drill for an hour and just work out in their parking lot? Like, no, like there should be certain stations where you can make these fixes and do it yourself and then get going. And speaking of batteries, in the video I did where I went to the RV Hall of Fame, and I talked on and on and on about these lithium batteries, because I would just love to get this whole thing battery powered, the AC battery powered if possible, at the very least some of the kitchen gadgets, not have to use a generator, not have to worry about shore power, never have to go into an RV park again. That would be amazing. The pushback that you always hear about lithium ion batteries is how expensive they are, and they are insanely expensive. We're talking like over $10,000. It's a huge investment. The bad news is the company that I featured in that, we went back and forth, we were exchanging emails. I'm telling them what brands of stuff I use, what my goals are for the van, you know, how much power I think I need, like what my budget is, how are we going to make it work, where are we going to put the bat, and then right when I said, okay, please send me that quote, because what I want to do is I want to loop around and I want to get this done if it's feasible, they just disappeared. I never heard from them again. So I have no idea how much the Britter battery system would be for the Babe Bus, because they ghosted me. I don't know what happened. But all I know is that in general, you're looking at a huge investment. However, look at it a different way. I need to take my thinking bra off because I just took it out of the laundry and it's still wet, and I'm gonna have like these 2 circles. I think I made my point. Anyway, 10,000, 13,000, 50, it's a ton of money, right? But if for your power needs 3 times a week you're staying at an RV park, right? And let's say we'll round down and say that the average is $30 a night. That means that in a year you will have spent about $4,500 just giving money to someone else just to have a plug. So in what, 2.5, 3 years, you will have cleared the cost of those lithium-ion batteries because you would be completely independent. And to me, that's pretty valuable. So I think the bigger question you have to ask is, am I going to stay in a van for longer than a couple months or a year? And if you are, I think it's worthwhile. I'm totally into it. I can't see myself moving into another house right now. A lot of you have made some really sweet comments about the Babe Cave, the Victorian home I renovated and unfortunately had to sell. That's on here. I would love to restore another house, but I have to wait for a recession to happen or for the housing market to tank, because you can't do it right now. So I will be in this van probably for a while. So lithium might make sense for me. Okay, I haven't made a ton of new purchases lately. We talked in the last Vanniversary about getting stuff on the road. I did replace the world's best slippers, and these are little piggy faces, but I'm going to say it again because I love them so much. These, look, this comes off, you throw this in the washer, then you have your slippers back, and they wipe down your floor for you in your van while you're working. I love these. I think they're great. I put these on immediately when all that water spilled and just got to town like shaking it across the van to get all that water up. So, if you need a manly version of these, I'm sure they have like camo or something, but in a house or the van, these are the greatest thing that ever was. And they were I think they're like $13. And the only other purchase that I have an update on, I don't really have an update, the last big purchase, which was Patreon sponsored, is Falcor, the drone. Again, it's a Spark. And so I've been using it for about a month now. I absolutely love this thing. The battery only lasts for a couple minutes, so you have to know what you want to shoot and then go fly it. And there's more than a few incidences where I nearly got in trouble for the drone or thought I was going to get in trouble for the drone. You're supposed to go get an FAA license or some bullshit like that. And when we got these at our TV station, we went through all kinds of hell getting legal to fly these. You're not allowed to fly them anywhere near an airport. But drones are the wild, wild west, and I've never seen an FAA police car. So what will happen is someone will tell you to take it down, and in the worst case scenario, they'll make you delete your footage. So if you're going to fly your drone, make sure whatever's already on the card you've already saved, and then go fly. Because if you get caught, which I came really, 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 really close, which you'll see that in an upcoming video, you will lose all your footage. So I love this thing. It's a great beginner drone. It is not perfect. Sometimes the Wi-Fi and GPS gets wonky, and Falcor will just go fly himself, and that's terrifying. And, ooh, bug. Bee. Not good. I'm sure people at a distance will just see this drone go and then hear the shrill scream of a ninja jinja off in the distance. But otherwise, it's fine. I did forget in the story where I announced Falcor that this was delivered when I was in Memphis, and I was staying with my friend Stacy, and Stacy said, hey, you may want to sit and wait today, because sometimes at high dollar amounts, FedEx will not leave it at the door. And he said, and make sure to look for a U-Haul truck. And I said, U-Haul truck? Now FedEx is headquartered in Memphis, Tennessee. Why would I look for a U-Haul truck? And Stacy said that the FedEx vans, the delivery vans, often break down. So they have to rent U-Haul trucks for their drivers to get the packages delivered. Would anyone like to guess what kind of van FedEx uses to deliver packages? I'll tell you. A Mercedes Sprinter. Couple questions about the Detroit video and who Jesse and his abandoned buildings tour was, And some of you, I think, have actually signed up for his tour. I just saw on social media that Jesse announced the end of those tours at the end of July. And that's because Detroit is being mowed down, rebuilt, restored, all that. And so it's really hard to do an abandoned building tour when the very best buildings are being knocked down. So if you have any interest, I know I said this in this video, but if you are curious about Detroit, or you want to see urban ruins, or you want to explore them, like, end of July is it. The economy has been rocking for over 10 years, and cities like Detroit, that kind of reputation is going to be a thing of the past soon. And the buildings are absolutely amazing, and they are just not going to be around that much longer. So get ye to Detroit, and tell Jesse I said hi. Finally, the only other question that I have gotten more than a few times is, how do I produce the travel videos? Like, how does that actually go down behind the scenes? I have no real way, since there's nobody helping me. That's a huge compliment when people think that I have like a team. A lot of YouTubers do hire people to do their editing, and I refuse to give up that responsibility because it's my favorite part of the whole process. It's where you can have the most creative control. It costs a fortune to hire someone to edit footage for you, a good editor. And I wrote the story, I was there, and only I can make it sing as far as I'm concerned. So I don't do that. I do not have anybody helping me. But subsequently, I can't really shoot myself shooting a story. So you're just going to have to use your imagination for a little bit. How this question typically starts is someone will say, how are you funding this trip? Like, how are you able, you spent all this money on gas, you got your food, you know, everything is expensive about travel, you've got all these emissions. And I said, well, I've been fortunate enough that the little tiny YouTube channel that I started has grown enough that it can support what I'm doing here. And what I mean to say is, because I got that Patreon account, what I'm doing here is able to support my trip. It is a huge myth that you can make lots of money on YouTube. I think there was a time and era where people were killing it, and then you've got those people which are really outliners that have like 100,000, 500,000, a million subscribers. Yeah, they're making bank. But in general, I think I'm over 2 million watch minutes now, and you get like change for every 1,000 views. I mean, it really is not a lot of money, and you have no control over that income to a certain degree. Okay, and this is why. So when I tell someone that it's my YouTube channel, they're like, "Oh, well, I'll just go do that. You know, we're gonna be traveling. I'll shoot some travel videos, and like, we'll make a full income off of that too." And I'm like, oh, hard stop, Kingston. There's a lot you need to know about how that works. I've been very fortunate. I've also worked really hard on these, especially to produce them every 3 days. That it's not just that you show up on YouTube and you start making money. Oh no, kitten. Oh no. You can see every month about how much you're making, and YouTube has an algorithm. There are people who do nothing but try to understand how this algorithm works. I have no interest in doing that. But, you know, for a while, like, I was making a steady increase, and then, you know, typically when things fall from favor because they're not interesting anymore, they like kind of die off slowly. And I don't know if something in the algorithm changed, or maybe everyone just stopped liking my videos, but I went from like, you know, 15,000 views on videos to 3. And my income went just all right, so, you know, it would be a myth to say that you are an independent on YouTube. You still work for big media. They control the advertisers. They control whose videos they suggest to other people. They control if your videos are monetized or not. I've had videos that have been demonetized that I have to then go through an appeals process and explain why they're okay or why it's okay for advertisers to, I mean, it's a really complicated thing. And if You need a full-time income if you don't have any savings to keep this going. Banking on a YouTube channel just magically making $1,000 a month for you, thousands, is super risky. All right, so, but I'll just tell you the behind the scenes so that if you really do want to do travel videos or van videos, at least you'll kind of have a head start in the process. First thing, I think the general public kind of made this one up, but people ask, like, do you have to get releases for all those people in your videos? And like, do you carry around paper releases? I got this question in TV a lot. People ask, like, or they would scream at me, you can't use that video of me, I haven't signed a release. Somebody made that up. That's not a real thing. Maybe private production companies do that, but media law, or the general rule, is that anything in the public line of sight you can get video of and broadcast. That's it. That's the rule. I can't climb over your fence and get video of you in your backyard. I can't zoom through a window. It's anything in public line of sight. If the opposite were true, and you had to get releases, then everyone with an iPhone would have to carry releases because people are recording all the time. So I don't have releases. I tell people what I'm doing. If you're really nervous about it, then hold up the camera and say, please repeat after me. My name is, and I understand that I am part of a video for the channel name that is monetized, and I agree to participate in this, and then hold on to that file. But yeah, there's no releases. Usually only criminals ask me that they demand when I was working in news that I couldn't use video of them getting arrested because they needed to sign a release. And I'm like, that's not how the law works, cupcake. What will happen is I will try to find something that's kind of an anomaly, a cool location, or somewhere where I think I will have enough video to make a story. And then I've got my GoPro, which I'm sorry, I cannot actually show you the GoPro because the GoPro is recording this, but this is the general setup. I will tell you, my big TV ego does not actually like this setup. I had a news lady camera. I loved it. It sat on my shoulder. I had a nice big tripod. The whole thing just had presence. So I feel like a little kid when I walk up to people with this thing and I'm like, hi mister, can I have an interview? For turn and burn video, I have to say the GoPro setup is pretty great. So I do not have it on a tripod. I have it on a monopod, and that allows me, some of the shots you've seen where like I'll be interviewing someone and then I'll flip it around, you know, so there's a lot of, but to get any kind of video of yourself, you have to like awkwardly hold it back here or set it up and then walk into it. So there are some major limitations. So this is called a Rode mic, and I've gone through already on a different video all the different pieces of this setup, but this will capture natural sound out and about, and then if I can get a quick interview, they can talk in the general area, this will pick it up. People like to walk up to this and pet it. It's called a dead cat, and at which point I will lean over and also pet them, just to make them feel as uncomfortable as they should doing something as weird as petting someone's camera equipment. Don't do that. In general, I focus on getting video way more than interviews. You typically have to fight people to interview. They don't want to be on camera. They're afraid they're going to look weird. So I can tell a story if I just have video. I can't tell a story if I only have an interview and not a lot of video. So I get as many 10-second clips of footage as I possibly can. 10 seconds, holding a shot for 10 seconds is the general TV rule to make sure that any shaking in the beginning from adjusting the camera and then shaking at the end from taking it down, you have a solid clip in between. So I get an insane amount of shots. I mean, shooting every single thing I can and then try to get some interviews, and then I have to put it all together. So I get back to the van and I go through all the video, and on a Word document I make notes about what pieces of video I have. And I do that because to do really good storytelling, you need to write to video, meaning what people hear on the screen and what they see, or what they hear you saying and what they see on the screen should match, right? So you don't tell people about something and show something totally unrelated. So you got to make all these notes about all the clips you have so you know what you can write about. And then you got to take all your interviews and log all the sound bites, write out all the sound bites of what they said. And then using those two things, you write a script into a Word document. And it would take me forever to talk about how I write a script and why I put things in certain places, but you write out your full script. Then you have to voice it. So back to your GoPro, put your GoPro in, put your mic on or put your wireless mic on, and then you have to shut down all of your equipment so that there's no electrical interference. I put the laptop up here, and like a teleprompter, I scroll through my Word document and voice the track. I voice my script. Take that, throw that into Adobe Premiere. I edit on Adobe Premiere, which I have an extreme love-hate relationship with. If you have never touched editing software before, if you are totally unfamiliar, Adobe Premiere is going to completely overwhelm you. If you have never shot video beyond a cell phone video, and you have never edited footage before, to go out on the road and assume that you're going to make a travel channel is really, really ambitious, borderline stupid. I have 10 years of practice of editing video before I ever stepped foot in here, and even I had complications adjusting to doing it in here. So I would try to find some really, really easy software like iMovie. You're not going to have the bells and whistles, but Adobe is a great software for people who have experience and a horrible software for people who don't, okay? So you get your track in there, and then you have to do what's called A-rolling. And A-rolling is when you put your voice and you mix in the sound bites and you get that down on a line of audio. And then you start to go through and pull down clips of video that match what you said on your script. And then when you're done with that, you have to go adjust and correct 2 lines of audio. And that can take forever because audio is not great on this consumer gear. So now we've done that. And you go back in and you have to color correct some pieces of footage or stabilize some of them. And so you make all these like individual clip corrections. And then the part that is my favorite part, but also the most time consuming, is selecting music. So when you produce documentaries like I did, the music is just a vital part of this whole process because music dictates how video feels. People do not remember what they see as much as how they feel when they're seeing it, and the two are linked. So if I'm trying to tell you a message, like in my documentary about heroin, you may see videos of needles and syringes, but if you're hearing the testimony of a woman who struggled and recovered, if I put some like heavy metal music to that, you don't develop empathy with her, right? Now, if I put some emotional music on that, you kind of feel her pain and process. So you have to put a lot of thought into what emotion, how did I feel when I was out there, when I was with these people? What did it feel like when I was there? And what piece of music matches that? And like, no one on YouTube goes through all this. I swear. I watch these band videos. Maybe that's like the core of my resentment, is I watch these videos, it's just this tacky like club music. And I'm like, oh gosh, there's just such a missed opportunity for good storytelling. So I will download an insane amount of songs and I will throw them under the different parts of the video and then watch the clip and like, is that how it felt there? No, try something else. No, try something else until I finally find it. And then all of that audio has to be synced up. And then I have to go find some place with Wi-Fi, usually the gym, and, download the whole thing, upload the whole thing, make a thumbnail for the video, get it up on YouTube, and I mean, it's a ton of work. And then do that every 3 days, right? So I'm working more hours doing this than I ever did in TV news. So if you want to do travel videos, just know that you will be sacrificing a lot of the, hanging out travel part to produce the footage. It's a huge job if you're doing it by yourself. And the other part, which I've talked about on why I've thought about getting an RV, is you just don't have the space. I mean, here's a good example. So it'll be like, midnight to 3 o'clock in the morning, and I am trying to do all those little nuances, and I'm basically like over here on the glitter fridge. Let me spin this around. So you're over here, the desk comes down, and you're like scrunched up trying to edit and like make all these specific corrections, and so you just have no room. There's just no room. I did go RV shopping because I was really kind of over it, and I looked at a bunch, and I'll tell you what, for $85,000 a year, I think that you can do better than cheap brown plastic everything. They're ridiculously expensive. I'm not feeling it. So I don't know, I'll probably redo the van when I get home. I'm thinking that this will all go. These cabinets are too big and clunky. So if I got rid of this, simplified the kitchen, and then over here set another countertop area and did like an eye bolt and a hanging chair, something like that. I don't know. I'd love to hear some feedback. Everyone does their van differently, and just keep in mind that people who have those extended sprinters, they have acreage to work with, but it's a terrible vehicle. So if somebody put in, a garden and a wood-burning stove and 2 showers, it's because they had more room. The ProMaster 2500 is not the biggest model. The only one bigger than it is the 3500, and all you get for almost $10,000 more is a foot extra on the back, which is just not a lot. So, lots of big decisions for the Babe Bus. Anyway, I have got to get north, get out of this heat, and then get ready to start making my descent into the great state of North Carolina, which I am having a blast. I have zero intention of stopping the production of video in some way or another on YouTube, but I can't wait to see my friends in my town again because I miss them like crazy. I would never tell them that. I don't want them to get any ideas, but you do. You start missing them a lot, and you realize that what you miss is the mundane, is the ability to just call people and hang out and like just be around your friends. So the adventure's always great, but it really is the people back home that are kind of the real prize, right? All right, so rock and roll. We've got a boatload of more stories to get through until I see you again on the 6-month, half a year Vanniversary. Bye, y'all.